This is a question for all of you. Did you find yourself relating to your character or a different one more so than your own?
I definitely, when we got to first see all of our bedrooms, the sets, I was like really jealous of Amara's room because I was like, that's what I'd have in my bedroom. Like she's quite witchy and she likes horoscope. You know, actually, I found that really hard. That like, and there's all these scenes where like now this is horoscopes, and I love star signs, and like I had to like pretend like I found that really hard to pretend I didn't know anything about them or like didn't like them. And I was like so jealous of all of Aliyah's lines to do with them.
I loved that because I suddenly did loads more research into horoscopes because I kind of didn't know anything about them, and so ended up talking to Marli a lot about that. So that was like a fun role reversal thing happening there. I definitely Amara's a big dreamer, and she feels passionate about things that she loves, and in that sense, I think I see and connect with her. But in lots of other like ways, I think we differ a lot in like her approach to certain situations. Her like party ability, I don't share with her, her level to party and have a good time. I do have a good time, just in different ways. And yeah, so those things, yeah.
Yeah, I think I related to Maggie a lot, but not in every way. I could definitely like kind of draw the line between Maggie and me and then where they cross over. But I think it was so much fun because you can kind of see bits of yourself in all the characters. Like I can be quite blunt like now sometimes, or like I will be like the mum at a party, kind of like Birdie, that's like if someone tips something over, I'm like cleaning that up. So I think all these girls are so relatable and real that you can kind of like pick little bits of yourself out from all of them.
I personally think that, your 20s are sort of romanticized, especially your early 20s. And there are definitely high points, but also really low ones as depicted in the show. Do you guys think that that time period is sort of overhyped or puts too much pressure on people when they're so young?
I just think it's like chaotic. I can only speak from personal experience. What I would say is I think society kind of puts a bit of a pressure of like, you need to know exactly what you're doing and have it figured out and have found a relationship and, be saving for a mortgage or have learned to drive. And none of it really matters as long as you're like, you've got your friends, you're figuring yourself out. As long as you're figuring it out and giving yourself the space to do that. And, so what if something doesn't work out? You find something else. I think people just need to like chill out a bit in their 20s.
I think something about your 20s is that like a lot of people who've like gone through their 20s and then are looking back are so nostalgic, so it can almost kind of make it seem like this thing that was like out of this world, which maybe someone in their 20s are a bit like, what? But I feel like once you're out of your 20s, you're probably gonna, I mean, depending on your situation in life, but look back at certain things and be like, that was like, yeah, in your 20s, woohoo, because like we're in it now. So well, I'm speaking because I'm still in my early 20s. So it's like different, it's a bit different in terms of your kind of worldview of it. But I'd say that there is like this thing of this generation, which is like work super, super hard and like kind of figure everything out. But I feel like just as much 20s should kind of be about finding different things that you love and trying things and like putting yourself out there and seeing things that work, seeing things that fail, and then like seeing what happens from then on. Like Emma was saying about the pressure to feel like everything needs to happen and needs to be super figured out definitely exists. But just as much, I feel like there should be that encouragement to like, I'm gonna pick this up, I'm gonna put it back down now and like try something else now, that kind of thing.
I think our brains synced, Aliyah. I was thinking the same thing, that like shows are like about your 20s are written fairly nostalgically, I think. But that's just because like I think when you're in the middle of it can feel exactly as like chaotic. But then when you look back on it when you're a bit older, you're like, that was kind of like beautiful chaos that I was in, and looking back on it, like it won't be like that again. And I think sometimes like if you watch a show, and I don't know, if you watch stuff when you're in your 20s, you might feel pressure to like have the most fun that everyone's having and you're told to have in your 20s. But I think when maybe you're a bit older, you can look at it and be like, I actually did have so much fun. But like at the time it was like messy. But like when you look back on it, and then you can like be like, that was fun. That was good fun.
What are your guys' thoughts on the series being compared to like past shows like Girls and even like Sex and the City?
We're gonna say the same thing, I reckon.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. But my thing was gonna say, I think it's the complement of like inspiration. I think that's where those comparisons come from, because Marley, you said it really well once about like what Dolly said about where what was inspired by what, and the kind of like domino effect that has on what comes next. But ultimately, there's so much difference that kind of we're finding in this show with the characters, how we see them together, how we see them apart, and like that whole thing. I think when there's a bunch of girls in shows, it's quite common to just naturally compare them, because it's like shows with girls, and so people go, oh, so that's like this show with girls, but not necessarily. So say watch it and find out. May not be. You never know. You have to watch it first.
Yeah, I think it's also because we're not used to seeing shows with like predominantly there being like a female group. So I think it's like, oh, it's like this show, whereas there's loads of shows where it's like a group of blokes, but they don't really get compared to each other because there's so many of them. But you know, it's quite like Sex and the City was like revolutionary, and Girls was like such a revolutionary show in that kind of way. So I would definitely say it's under the same umbrella. But yeah, I hope when people watch it, they're like, oh no, it's still very much that its own thing.